All right, guys, this is Freddie Cornell coming at you. I'm right here with Madman Pondo. Sorry for the delay. We actually just came in. It's been a hard weekend for Pondo. He's actually been wrestled last night and tonight. We actually just came in back from a show. Got us a little bite to eat and stuff. Kind of tied up. But we're live right here for this interview that we said we was going to do with you here. Just a few questions, just run down. A lot of fans been asking about Madman Pondo, some of his stuff. As you know, right there, you started young video of him and doing some hardcore stuff right there. So, like always, Pondo, tell us everything. How'd you get started?
So, way back in the day, not even my grandma and grandpa, my great grandma and grandpa used to cuss at the TV for professional wrestling around me and my brother, and we loved it. So I fell in love with wrestling then, and then it wasn't really televised like it was now, but there was Jerry the King Lawler's wrestling at the Chase. There was Jerry King Lawler's USWA. There was wrestling at the Chase with Bruiser Brody. Right near my grandma's house, there was ICW, which was ran by Angelo Poffo, and the main event was usually Leapin' Lanny versus Macho Man Randy Savage. And it was just all this wrestling, and I just fell in love with it and told myself that's what I was going to do when I got older, and now I'm way too older.
So tell us, do you remember your what year your very first match was?
June 24th, 1989 in Albion, Illinois versus the
Avalanche, okay. And was he a local guy near that area?
We went to the same school. He was from Grayville, Illinois, and I was from Florida, Illinois. But June 24th, 1989, it was my birthday, and it was my very first match. And normally when you're in your very first match, you don't get that much, but he took care of me, I took care of him, and I thought for a first match it came out pretty good.
Good. Now, when you very first started wrestling, did you always go as Madman Pondo?
From day one. I've done some other things, like when USWA had Nightmare Freddie, I did a Freddie gimmick. When my boots got stolen and all I had was sneakers, I was MP Slammer. Stupid little other things, but always Madman Pondo all the way through.
Okay. And how did you come up with that name?
So there's a movie called The Party Animal, and one of the characters is named Pondo Sinatra, and he was a 7-year college student who never got laid. Well, in high school, maybe I had trouble doing that, and trust me, I have exceeded that, but they would call me Pondo, and the fight was on in school, so it was either getting used to the name or a fight all the time, so I just got used to the name. And then the Madman part was, I always liked the crazy guys, like the Bruiser Brody, the Abdullah the Butcher, the original Sheik, the Sheep Herders, you know, the crazy dudes. So I wanted something like that in my name. There was a Maniac Mark Lewin, so couldn't do that. There was a crazy Mike Davis, couldn't do that. So there was no Madman. So I just put my nickname from high school and Madman together, Madman Pondo, and here I am today.
Okay, now we go on, move forward from that and stuff. Now, did you? You said your favorite wrestlers was the Bruiser Brody and Sheep Herders and all that stuff. When did you actually meet them? Any of them for the first time? I mean,
Bruiser Brody passed by me so many times, but this is before Vince shot out that it was sports entertainment. So I led in because I would sit and watch this man kick people in the head for real and beat the shit out of people. So I wasn't very old, but Bruiser Brody would pass me going to his car, but I just didn't have the balls to hold my hand out and shake the guy's hand. I did shake Andre the Giant's hand back in the day, and that was pretty intimidating. But Bruiser Brody was just one of those guys, you know. And then Sheep Herders, I wrestled. Well, I went to Puerto Rico and worked for Luke, And then Butch and Luke I met in Michigan. And then the thing that I love the most is those guys were always considered on the crazy level, and so am I. So I like that I established myself in this wrestling business as crazy, madman, maniac.
Okay. It's a fan on here named Robert. He wants to know what wrestler or wrestlers inspired you now. I mean, when you started and now.
There is a little piece of everything inside. There's the sheep herders, not the bushwhackers, but the sheep herders was always crazy faced and going nuts. I don't know. Really, I think there was some Joe Duke in there because bleeding is what Joe Duke always did, was famous for, and I always wanted to be famous for that. There was some Abdullah the Butcher, just because I would be aggressively going to the ring and doing shit to my opponent. And nowadays, I guess the answer would be me. Like, I inspire myself to keep doing innovative things and try and keep myself current with the events of today. But it's getting rougher and rougher. But yeah, I don't know if that's a conceited answer, but I'd say nowadays I inspire myself.
No, you said you went to Puerto Rico and wrestled. Did you ever had a chance or get invited? The Colognes, Carlos, and all that.
No, but so me and New Jack was sitting in the dressing room, and I saw Jose Gonzalez heading towards the locker room through the bleachers. Jose Gonzalez is the invader, the guy who stabbed Bruce Brody. So I told New Jack, I said, "Hey, watch this." So I start walking in some the aisles of some bleachers. So Invader moves up one, so I move up one. He moves down one, I move down one, and finally we got close enough, and I said, "How you doing? I'm Madman Pondo." And he says, "Hey, I'm the Invader. I want you to know all these people are here because of me." And I shook the guy's hand, and I went and sat down, and New Jack said, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "I just shook the hand of the man that killed Brody." And New Jack said, "You a stupid motherfucker." And then that was the end of that. But I didn't meet the Colognes, but I did meet that guy.
Was that the only conversation you had with him?
Yeah, with the Invader, yeah. He wasn't even there for the whole show. He was there to do the opening. They gave him some money. I saw him give him some money. I don't speak their language, and then he went on for the night.
Good. Did you have a chance to swing by where they used to do the shows at and stuff, where Brody was murdered and stuff?
No, but here is the thing about Puerto Rico. They always say it's dangerous there. Don't go walking around at night. Well, number one, I was with New Jack, so I didn't care about that. Number two, we went to go pick up a wrestler, and I asked him, I said, "Are these bullet holes in your house?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Who shot at your house?" And he was like, "No, they was here when I moved in." So then my question was, why'd you move in if there's bullet holes in your house? But the people who talk about how dangerous Puerto Rico is I think at night going around looking for drugs in like the neighborhoods and stuff. But if you stay in the downtown area, you're fine. Or if you walk down the street with New Jack, you're also fine.
Okay. Just hang on for your questions, guys. Just if you got a question from Pondo, just put it on here and I will get to it. I will get to your questions and stuff. One question's on here that a gentleman was asking. The wrestler movie, they knew Necro Butcher was in it. Was you ever reached out to be in that movie at all?
No, I wasn't. But two stories about that. So here in Charleston, well, I mean, I'm not in Charleston, but in Charleston, West Virginia, I was an usher at a movie theater, Park Place Cinemas, and for 2 weeks they played The Wrestler. So I'm tearing up tickets, and everybody's in their theater, and these two old people were starting to walk past me towards the exit. And I was like, is everything okay? And they legit said, well, we liked the movie, but there was this crazy guy on there, like stapling himself and getting hit with a window. And they was talking about Necro Butcher, my friend. And I said, okay, I'm very sorry, there's the door. I didn't even tell him that I do the same shit or nothing like that. And then Necro one day, we was driving down the road, and he said, man, you're so lucky you was in 2001 Maniacs. And I was like, Necro, you was in a Oscar-nominated movie that got mentioned by, your name got mentioned by James Franco on the Oscars. Why would you think my movie was better than yours? And he was like, well, yours had drugs and titties. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But I was never asked.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Mickey that did that?
Mickey Rourke, no.
Yeah, never did. Now, a lot of the film was in that movie was CZW.
Yeah.
Now you wrestled for that company quite a bit, right?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
And
we were in Japan.
Japan.
BTW, yeah.
Now, same promoter or different?
John Zandig, yeah.
Yeah. Now, was you there at any of the time when they was getting ready to film it at all?
No, because at that point, John Zandig had this big thing against me. But I mean, we're cool now. But yeah, no, I wasn't welcome at CZW at the time that they was filming that.
Okay. Now you mentioned about Necro was asking about your movie, 2001 Maniacs. So can you tell some of the fans of the viewers right here about that movie? Because I knew at Friday night at our show, it was mentioned that you've been in horror film. Can you tell the fans something about that?
Yeah, if you want to play a drinking game, every time you see me, you can take a shot. You'll be drunk as shit by the end of the movie. I'm the blacksmith. I was working for Juggalo Championship Wrestling, and I always wore horror movie t-shirts. So Roy Canarum and Pat Tenatello, who worked for Soda FX, was doing the special effects for this horror movie, and they asked me if I wanted to be in it. I said, hell yeah, and they said, okay, we'll get you $40 a day, and we'll take care of your meals while you're on the set. I'm like, great. But I'm at the hotel, and I'm checking in, and I'm filling out my piece of paper, and somebody comes behind me, and they're like, yes, would you like to check in? He says, yes. And they said, what was your name? And he said, Robert England. I froze. I couldn't even move. I couldn't even write on the paper. Robert England standing right behind me. So I didn't even know Robert England was part of the movie, but that just made it that much better.
Share the video. Can you? Where was that filmed at? Do you remember?
Yeah, somewhere in Georgia. I can't remember. Some small town in Georgia at some Civil War reenactment. The buildings and everything was legit. The furniture, a lot of the furniture was from that time, but they didn't want us there after 2 nights because there was tire tracks everywhere and cigarette butts everywhere. But we had a contract, and the movie got made pretty much.
So basically, all the movie was through in Georgia then.
Yeah, and then California, because me and Kane Hodder are in the same scene. But until we watched the movie, we didn't know that he was in it. I didn't know he was in it, and he didn't know that I was in it. So some of it got filmed in California, and some of it got filmed in Georgia.
Okay. They wanted to know, Chris wants to know, in the movie, was you the only wrestler in the movie?
There was another dude that said he was a wrestler, but he must have been... If he was really a wrestler, he must have been one of them 40-milers that never had a name or nothing. But pretty much, yeah, I was the only wrestler in that movie. I mean, unless you include that guy who said he was, but there was no video, no, you know, because I would ask him what arenas, what towns, and I don't really think he was. So yeah, let's just say yeah, I was the only wrestler.
I know you're a big fan of horror movies and stuff. A huge fan, actually. Is that your? Would that be your first or second? Should you say, besides wrestling, was your hobby and stuff?
No. Over wrestling, over all the stuff. Yeah, horror movies. I love horror movies. I've always loved horror movies. Horror movies over wrestling any day. Like, people come to my room and they expect to see all this wrestling memorabilia, and there's just a bunch of horror movie stuff. But there is, you remember the LJN rubber figures? I have one of each of those with all their accessories. And then I have Monopoly games. I have over 95 Monopoly games. So I'm kept busy with my hobbies, but horror movies is my number one.
So, who would you? Because I know you go to a lot of these conventions.
Yeah, I used to.
Yeah. Now you met a lot of the horror, actors, correct? Yeah. Now you said the rubber dolls. Yes. Now you have every one of them. I know that you was a big fan of Sergeant Slaughter too.
Oh yeah, I got his LJN, and I have my own LJN collection, like a Sergeant Slaughter cigarette lighter, a Sergeant Slaughter poker chip, Sergeant Slaughter birthday set, Sergeant Slaughter kite. Yeah, I'm a real big Sergeant Slaughter fan, and the reason being because when Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov would stand in the middle of the ring and sing that song, and people were throwing shit at them, and they were big heels, Sergeant Slaughter was the one that would come to the ring and get them out. You know, I was never a Hogan guy, and I don't know. I guess I really wasn't a Ric Flair guy all that much, but Flair over Hogan. But I always liked Sergeant Slaughter back then.
Now you said previously that you and New Jack was together in Puerto Rico. Am I correct?
Okay.
I know you knew Jack. I mean, previously with his death, was you pretty shocked to hearing that and stuff?
So when I saw the very first report on Facebook, I texted and said, "Hey, Jack, some fools on Facebook saying that you died. Please text me back where I can debunk that and tell this guy he's full of shit." And of course, I didn't get a text back. But I mean, so many times I wrestled with Jack. I wrestled him, I bet, over 20 times, and a lot of people's had problems with him. A lot of people says, he's stiff and tears people up. Never me, never once. So yeah, that was a pretty rough one on me. But time goes on, and right before the Masters of Pain, we did a 10-bell salute for him, and it sucks, but
Because you was recently this year was at a show with him, right?
Yeah.
And where was that at again?
In Anna, Illinois. I was supposed to wrestle. It was supposed to be me versus New Jack, but then when he got there, he told him that he had leg surgery. So New Jack managed the guy that I wrestled, Bull Bronson, and then New Jack wound up hitting that guy with a guitar for me to get the pin. And New Jack, his thing, man, like, I had a granddaughter die not too long ago. New Jack called to see if I was okay. I broke 2 ribs and punctured my lung. New Jack called to see if I was okay. So I don't know if anybody else out there has stories of New Jack calling over heartbreak things, but 2 times he called me just to see if I was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I met him several times, and I mean, he was always nice to me. I mean, never really know. I mean, of course, I remember the days when he worked, wrestled in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
And all that. So
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic promos.
Now, we mentioned we go on to what do we call when was when you broke into the business? Was it on down the road? What year exactly did you decide to, hey, hardcore is what I wanted to do?
So, if you remember on Sundays, WWE had a pay-per-view every weekend called In Your House. There for 8 months maybe, and me and some friends, we always got the pay-per-views. I mean, all 8, right? And then they just stopped having them, and they wasn't really all that great of pay-per-views because they only had 1 week. Wasn't they every week? Or every month? No, I think they were every week on Sundays. Well, me and my friends, we would conjure up the money, and this was back when pay-per-views were 50, 89, shit like that. We always bought the In Your House pay-per-views, and I would notice because there was always like 9 to 11 of us, and we never watched the whole pay-per-view because like the pizza would get there, so we didn't really give a shit what match was going on. We would eat pizza. We always watched the main event, but I realized that we wasn't really paying that much attention to the TV during those pay-per-views, but I always had deathmatch videos on hand. So after the pay-per-views, like clockwork, it was always like, Pondo, put in, Kevin, they would call me Kevin, put in one of those deathmatch videotapes. I would, and all eyes would be on the TV. And I'm like, okay, look, I can do this. I've always had a high pain tolerance, so and I knew that this would help get my name out there fast. I knew that I could be entertaining, hurting myself, and that's when I decided to start doing death matches.
Now, when you started doing them, did you notice the difference immediately in your bookings?
Not immediately. I was doing things and hitting the dirt sheets. And for people who doesn't know what dirt sheets are, I don't even know if they're a thing anymore. But dirt sheets used to be the inside story on professional wrestling that you could only get if you was a professional wrestler. And they would write about me in these dirt sheets. Well, then me and this piece of shit guy, we did this match in a truck stop, and it was called the Four Sides of Pain. It had barbed wire, glass, thumbtacks, mousetrap, and this was way before social media. So nowadays, if you want to know what Slack did at the Masters of Pain in the backyard, all you got to do is search that, and right there on your phone, there it is. But back in the day, the only social media that we had was wrestling magazines. And that match, that truck stop match, made it on the cover, and then it was a 4-page spread. And after that, yes, people started wanting to know what Madman Pondo looked like or what he was about. So promoters started contacting me. But at that time, I had a thing called Web TV. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was just a keyboard that would fit into your TV.
Yes.
Well, stupid ass me, because it was my very first email address that I had was MMP in the house #1 at webtv.com. So promoters, I'm sure by the time I got at the end of writing my email address, it's like, what the fuck's wrong with this kid, So yeah, that's. Did I answer your question? I forget.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah. And web TVs was pretty hilarious. I remember having one myself. Now tell us about. Let me get back to this gentleman's question right here and stuff. Clint, tell us about you. Some states. Can you? What you're trying to ask? Oh, your state. Did you really wrestle in all the states you always say in your promos?
Yeah. I mean, why would I lie about that? There's some states that I have not wrestled in. There's one state that I don't give a shit if I ever wrestle in, no matter how much money they offer me, no matter who they put me up against. I never have to go to Alaska. I'm the biggest pussy about cold, so going to Alaska, I never have to wrestle there in my life. But yeah, if you think about it, I toured with ICP. When I first got into wrestling, I toured with Dale Mann, and we're talking about 2 years in. And Dale Mann used to run these Indian reservations, and it was all over the place. So, and not only that, but flying to these states that promoters would pay for. I've been to 5 different countries, over half the states that, more than 25 states I've been into. So, yeah, I don't know why somebody would think that I was bullshit about all the states that I've been in.
Now, you mentioned about Dale Mann.
Yeah.
I remember him very well. Stuff. You said the Indian reservations. What year was you with him?
Let's see. I started wrestling in '89, so I would say 90, 91. And he would treat. Come on, man.
Oh.
He would treat me and my wife at the time fucking great. Like everybody else talked about how Dale wouldn't pay him right. He always paid us right. All these tours that we went on and all this shit, come to find out, he was hoping to swing with me and my wife, and we didn't know it until later. But that's why we always got our money, because he was trying to fuck my wife and I didn't know it. But the experiences of those trips, if you think about it, what wrestler would be able to tell you his second year that he toured all over the Midwest and then parts of the East Coast and then a lot of the South? It's just unheard of, and I was doing that with Dale Mann. Not that I'm putting a man over, like, he used to beat the shit out of me. He didn't like me. He liked my wife, and he always wore these. His wrestling boots was cowboy boots with soles put on the bottom of them, and he always kicked me like right here. It was like clockwork. Always kicked me in between my whatever bone this is right here. He always kicked me right there, and he wasn't light on me and all this shit. And there was another guy with him, Cousin Junior, who became Moondog Cujo later. He hated me. I mean, I was getting my shit kicked in all over these fucking tours. But the Indians liked me, so he kept bringing me on the tours. And I got second year in, I'm touring all across America, making pretty good money.
Now, was you with Dale when he had Jamie Dundee and all them, and Chris Michaels and all them with him?
A couple. Not on any tours, but he also ran Bowling Green, Kentucky, a lot. And
was that at the saloon?
No, this was at a National Guard Armory. There was a saloon. The saloon you're talking about was in Somerset, Kentucky. I would work that one. I would work Bowling Green, and this was when we was home. And then he had a couple of other. He was the first one that I knew of that would run 2 shows in one day, 1 hour apart. So your first match here would be your main event here, and we would just drive back and forth, 2 shows in one night. But let's see. I stopped working for Dale Mann because he got away with shooting a man. And for an angle one time, somebody pulled some money. It was an all angle, but one of the heels pulled some money away from the front desk and took it to the back. Well, Dale Mann went to his van and grabbed his real gun. And yeah, it was an angle. Yeah, the gun wasn't loaded. But us heels who know this man got away with killing somebody, how did we know? So after that, I never went back to Dale Mann's company.
Now, was Gypsy Joe with Dale at the time?
A few times, but Gypsy Joe was also working for a guy, Shelby Adcock, and he was also doing El Pistolero for USWA. So Dale would get him when he was available, and that was the first place me and Gypsy Joe met, but not he wasn't a normal on the roster.
Did you ever have a chance to wrestle the barber and brawler Doug Vines?
Yes, a lot. Never John Sword, but yeah, Doug Vines I wrestled a lot. But I also, I don't remember if I did wrestle Doug Vines, but I teamed with him. I know I teamed with him, and he used to work for Joe Bailey at BTW. He used to work for Howard Brackney in Vincennes, Indiana, and yeah, I mean, Doug Vines, I don't know where that dude is. I would love to find that dude and talk to him.
Yeah, because I remember when I was down there for Dell and stuff, I remember Doug was there. He actually, Hitman Tony.
Yeah, Hitman Tony. We still talk, me and Hitman Tony.
Yeah, and I remember he had a son named Michael Ray that wrestled.
Yeah.
And little Danny, little Crow.
Oh, little Danny. What a horrifying situation. I mean, he was cool, but I don't want to talk bad about the dad, but I mean, Danny might have had a few problems.
Yes, I mean, like you said, you ain't putting Dale over and stuff, but he did run some good shows previously in the past. I mean, not maybe not your days, but my days and stuff like that. Can you, somebody on here keeps asking talk about the Backyard Wrestling video game.
I've been on 3 video games. Well, I've been on 4 video games total. When Dreamcast came out, and I haven't even seen this, but My Head was a download that you could use. But if you know anything about those Fire Pro games, it was just My Head, and then when you downloaded My Head to a body, every time you reached out, you grabbed a stop sign out of the crowd. And that person's name was Dirty Barry Dirt. Well, that was me, and I was impressed with that. But then Backyard Wrestling, Don't Try This at Home. I got asked by Kevin Gill to be on that video game. And then for Backyard Wrestling, There Goes the Neighborhood, I got asked on that video game. And then later on, me, Necro, and Too Tough Tony was in Japan a lot. So for Fire Pro Returns, for PlayStation, I think only PlayStation, they didn't use our real names, but they put the 3 of us on that video game as well. So I've been technically on 3 video games, but if you want to add that Dirty Barry Dirt, you could say 4.
Did that when they came out? I mean, it was a pretty popular at the events that you was doing. Did anybody bring a lot of them? Had you sign them and all?
Yeah, I signed a bunch. You know what E3 is?
Yes.
I got to go to E3, and I'm in the catering service, and I didn't approach him, but Tony Hawk was in the fucking because he had a video game out. Some actors from the movie Tron. I didn't care about them, but they were there. Paul Abdul and Randy Jackson because they had a video game coming out. I got to meet them. I got to meet Anna Nicole Smith. All at E3, and plus so many free giveaways. I mean, I didn't know what E3 was. I just knew that I was invited. But now you can buy tickets to go to E3, but back then you had to be invited to go to E3. And yeah, they just had gifts all over the place. Free video games, free posters, free enamel pins, and that's all through the video game. I got to do that.
You went over to Japan a lot. You actually lived over there, correct?
I wouldn't say lived, but I had a wife over there, so I would stay 3 months with my in-laws and not have to fly home and then fly back. So kind of, yeah, but not a legal residency over there.
Now, how was the wrestling over there? I mean, you wrestled for. Can you name the companies that you was with?
Yeah, Big Japan, Fighting Ultimate Crazy Kings, which was fuck, DDT, Apache. I got to do one of Onita's retirement matches, which lasted maybe a year. It was me and Mr. Pogo took on Ricky Fuji and Gosaka. I worked Tarzan Godo's company. I can't remember them all, but man, yeah, I worked for a lot of companies when I was over there, and that was unheard of. But Big Japan explained to me that they knew that I was drawing them money and that I was staying over there 3 months, so they gave me the open range to go work for other companies in Japan.
How is the when you how would you say it with how do they react to that in Japan? You know, you hear where companies have a lot of heat with each other and stuff. Is it like that in Japan?
It's like that all over the world. It's pretty sad, but yes, in Japan, this company hates this company. Germany, this company hates this company. Mexico, England, Scotland, Australia. There is all over America. If there is a wrestling company running and doing a good thing, there's always a wrestling company that hates that company for that. Wrestling will always be wrestling, and it's not all, golden rivers, but yeah, there's a lot of problems with wrestling in Japan. Yeah, you wouldn't think it, but there's also backyard wrestling companies in Japan, and way lower wrestling companies in Japan, just like we got here. It's all the same.
And you said so. Big Japan was your very first one, and when you was making the
main one, yeah.
And when you was making the money, they gave you free open range and stuff. Did I?
That took a while though. That wasn't right. That wasn't right away, but yeah.
Did I help you with other audience throughout Japan?
Here's the thing about that. So Japan is an island. It's a small island. It's not a small island when you have to take a 22-hour ferry boat to the other side of the island, but as opposed to United States, it is an island. So they had a thing called Samurai TV over there. The whole island got Samurai TV. So pretty much any American that went over to Japan and wrestled was a star, because it's just like here we have reality TV shows. So reality TV stars become famous. At that time, when me and the rest of the members of Bakugajin was wrestling in Japan, we was fucking stars, man. Me and Tony 4 or 5 times got free cab rides from taxi drivers just because we was who we was, and they would pull over and ask us if we needed to go somewhere, or we would be trying to eat and we couldn't eat because fans would be coming over wanting us to autograph their shit while we were eating, yeah, Japan respects wrestling way more than they do here in America.
Somebody's asking, what did you ask Pondo? What does he think about hardcore wrestling from your style and ECW style? I mean,
well, big difference. So ECW, they did barbed wire once in a blue moon. They did a lot of balcony jumps and stuff like that, and I'm not running that down. I was an ECW fan. I'm sure you was an ECW fan. It was the hottest shit to me. I mean, It was the new thing. And then the difference is every match I'm in, most of the matches I'm in, something's gonna cut you. So ECW had hardcore matches. What I do is deathmatch wrestling. So and for me to say that ECW every once in a while had barbed wire, I couldn't tell you how many barbed wire no rope barbed wire matches I had, and there's just a big difference there. ECW style and death matches, I feel, are two different things.
Okay, PJ, what is your favorite wrestler, past and present today?
Past, I mean, two stages, right? So my favorite wrestler, and this is from the AWA days, would be Sergeant Slaughter, because he always bled, and his voice was always loud and shit like that. Way past, it's got to be Bruiser Brody, because he just, to me, was the ultimate kick-ass guy that didn't take no shit from nobody. And now that we know, he really didn't take shit from nobody. And then favorite wrestler that I wrestled, I would have to say Terry Funk, because we wrestled each other for the Juggalo Championship belt. He put me over like a champ. He was a total fucking gentleman. We know each other to this day, so I'd say that would be Terry Funk. And then favorite wrestlers of the day, man, I got to put that Slack over. Slack, we was just talking about this. Slack looks like he would just kill you and leave you on the side of the road, but he's such a nice guy, and he's the total package of death matches, because he's got them tattoos everywhere, and he bleeds like a fucking river, and he's muscle bound and all that shit, but such a nice guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is looks pretty brutal. It's like does. Now, a couple of questions, ladies and gentlemen, I will not bring up. So just letting you know, I will not bring up some of the questions. So,
Sarah Logan question.
So I will not bring
Bring
some.
the fucking Sarah Logan questions up. I don't care. It used to bother me before, but I don't give a fuck no more. She's the most ungrateful wrestler that ever stepped in the ring. But go ahead. What's the Sarah Logan question?
I'll just leave that out. Anyway, back to your they're talking about Terry Funk. Now, you heard. I guess he's pretty bad off. Am I correct?
Talked to him on the phone not too long ago.
How's he doing?
He says he's not jumping any rope, but he's still getting around. But if you knew anything about Terry Funk, he loved his wife. I've known Terry Funk, I don't know how long, and never heard him talk about any other girl. Loved his wife. And his wife passed away not too long ago, so, I mean, that has to weigh in on him, you know.
Oh,
yeah.
Was it true? Was they married for?
They've been married since the black and white wrestling days.
Yeah, that's what somebody said to him. And yes, yeah, and she stood by him the whole time. I was like, hey, man. Now, if I'm not mistaken, was it Beyond the Mat or something like that? That's her, correct? That at his house and stuff. Was that his daughter?
You know what? I haven't seen that, and I don't know how long, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I do know that that they was married for a long time. They said. Okay, well, it's good to know that he's doing okay. Stuff. Now we move on to back to your Japan days. Somebody was just here asking about that. The Dome or something like that. Have you ever wrestled in
Tokyo Dome?
Yes.
No. I went to matches in the Tokyo Dome one time for a New Year's show. the big advertisement was Brock Lesnar and Sable. And because I'm a wrestler, I know other wrestlers, and I got free tickets. So me and my wife at the time and a few other friends went. And then the only thing Brock Lesnar did with Sable, they came out, they circled the ring, they sat down, they watched one match, and they waved to everybody and went to the back. And my God, people lost their mind. They were so pissed because they didn't say, you know, as far as everybody thought, Brock Lesnar was going to wrestle at that event. And he did. But that was at the Tokyo Dome. But the cool thing about that is the building behind the Tokyo Dome is called the Corrigan Hall. And that's my favorite building that I've ever wrestled at. And I would rather be at Corrigan Hall than I would Tokyo Dome any day. Tokyo Dome is a big baseball thing, so there is actually nosebleed sections at the Tokyo Dome. Corrigan Hall, everything, you can see everything from where you're sitting. And Corrigan Hall was like the ECW arena in Japan, because they would react and chant your name and shit like that. So I would rather be at Corrigan Hall than Tokyo Dome any day.
Now you, moving on to another question here for you. Abdullah the Butcher. You know, you heard such bad stories about him with the hepatitis and stuff. And I know that you and him have wrestled several times. Do you think it's, of course, I mean, I don't want to bring this subject up because, you know, Hannibal and stuff, but, I mean, do you think it's any truth of that, you think?
Here's the thing about that. So I've been tested, and you don't just get rid of hepatitis. I do not have hepatitis. So I can't really speak for Abdullah, but I will say this, that just randomly one day, I got a telephone call, and I look at my phone. It's from Larry Shreve, which is Abdullah. I answered the phone, and we're talking for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, and finally he said, I need to ask you a question, champ. I was like, all right. He's like, have you ever had hepatitis? And I was like, no. He's like, how do you know you don't have hepatitis? I said, I went and got checked. And I had to get checked to work for CZW's Tournament of Death. So you have to take a hepatitis test, HIV, A, B, and C, and another test. But one of them was hepatitis, and I told him, no, I don't have it. And he was like, so isn't it funny that everybody's blaming me for giving this guy hepatitis? So I didn't know how to answer. You know, I mean, I just didn't even act like I knew the answer to the question. I just went on talking about something else. But I'm not there. You wasn't there. We don't know what happened. So Abdul my friend. Hannibal interviewed me one time for his thing, and he asked me how I got in Japan, and I had to tell him I know you don't want to hear this answer, but Abdullah got me in Japan, and he totally avoided the question after that. So there's heat between the two, but I'm not in it. I don't want to.
Absolutely. But you and Abby wrestled several times now. Did y'all ever wrestle each other in any of your other states besides Japan? I know in the U.S. you have.
Yeah, we wrestled each other a lot in the U.S., but mostly Japan. Like we did a whole tour where we wrestled each other, and they were okay. So the first time I wrestled Abdullah, if you know anything about Abdullah, when he's done with his match, he wants to sit the fuck down, change his clothes, get paid, and go home. So we went out, we did our match. I went to the back. Abdullah came to the back and said, "Champ, let's go back out." And he grabbed me in a headlock, and we went and did another 4 or 5 minutes, and then we went through another door, and then we came through another door. People are amazed about that story. They think I'm lying because everybody knows Abdullah just wants to sit the fuck down, but he had such a good time wrestling me that we went, you know, another, I bet, 10, 12 minutes just fighting each other all around the arena.
Okay, we move on to one of the questions I was going to ask you too about now. One of the questions: who is your favorite opponent, wrestling and death matches?
Death match has got to be Necro Butcher, because me and him always had the best chemistry, and it was down to the point where I knew what he was getting ready to do, and he knew what I was getting ready to do. So yeah, Necro Butcher for death matches.
If you have any questions, just post them here, and I will answer them, guys.
Ask me them Sarah questions. I don't care.
Just wanted to see Sarah. I mean, what is your thoughts on her for going to WWE?
I will tell you my thoughts. So, I pulled Sarah Logan out of a backyard. She was dating a guy, and she was 17 going on 18. And she was pretty hot teenage girl. I was in my 40s. Never would have thought a young 18-year-old girl would ever look at me in any other way than I was Madman Pondo. So I let her wrestling career, I speedballed her wrestling career by doing things that she did not know that I did. She tells everybody she got herself in Japan, which in her mind she did, because I didn't tell her that I'm the one behind her telling my buddy Craig Classic, hey, please do me a favor, talk to this girl, get her in Japan. She thinks she got herself booked on Shimmer, which I let her believe. You know as well as I do that if you let somebody believe that they are doing things on their own, they're going to keep doing those things on their own. So I will say that she got me, she got herself in Scotland, and then she got me booked with Resistance Pro, with the Barons, which everybody thought Billy Corgan was the owner, but he wasn't. So she got me in 2 companies. All that other shit, ROH, I wrote Delirious and said, hey, I got you in Japan, do me a favor, put my girl on ROH, but don't tell her I said so. AIW, I said, hey, I'll come in and I'll do jobs to all you guys, but don't put Sarah under. Just little shit that I did to speedball her. Her first time in WWE, Heather Patera called me to ask if I wanted to be an extra on WWE, and I said yeah, but can I bring my girl Crazy Mary Dobson with me? And there was enough money for 1 plane ticket. I was supposed to do something with Bo Dallas. Is that his name?
Yes.
Bo
Believe, yeah.
Bo Believe. I was supposed. It was set. I was going to be a farmer, doing an interview with that Bo Dallas dude. But then when there was only 1 plane ticket, I didn't give a shit about WWE. There's a lot of wrestlers out there that'll tell you that, oh, I never cared about WWE because they never got booked with WWE. I didn't give a shit about WWE. My dream was Japan, and I went there 43 times and back. Her dream was WWE. So we only had money for 1 plane ticket. I sent her. All right, and I'm glad I did, because that was the time she became the Miz's makeup artist, and it just spiraled after that. Then she became Kane's concession stand manager, and she was going to NXT and all this shit. I shut my wrestling career down so I could drive her to these shows, and the minute she got what she wanted, the minute WWE said, yeah, we're going to sign you, that's when she didn't leave me for the Vikings. She left me for, I don't know, some gun activist. And then she left him for some dude who was a fireman. And then I think there was another one in between there, but then that's when she got hooked up with this Viking dude. Now she tells people she has Viking heritage. Motherfucker, you're from Hazard, Kentucky. There's not no Viking heritage 10 miles from fucking Hazard, Kentucky. So I don't know what she's talking about. But anyway, she does the interviews now, a lot of interviews. She has her own Facebook channel, and she never says, Pondo trained me, Pondo did me the right thing. I'm always the guy who got her in wrestling. That's what she calls me. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Yeah. So you said your goal was you didn't care about WWE and stuff like that. Now, if you look back at it in your when you first started, was what year was that again?
89.
89.
I mean, I started training in 87.
Now, did you ever happen to go across NWA or anything like that?
No. What do you mean, to watch?
Not to watch, to wrestle.
No. USWA, because of the Jerry the King Lawler shit, I love that shit. So I started going to Memphis and doing the TV tapings. But my mouth got me in trouble, and I was banned from there. But that was a pretty big hit for me, because I was sitting in the locker room with Jerry the King Lawler and Bill Dundee and the Moondogs and shit like that. But if you know me, my mouth gets me in trouble all the time. So USWA was one, and then so Japan. I'm a big Godzilla fan. I've always been a Godzilla fan. And there's this character on Godzilla named Mothra. So Mothra would get called by these two little fairies. Not two gay dudes, two little fairies. And they were so hot to me. I was a child, but I was like, oh, these girls are so pretty. So I always told myself I want to go to Japan. So then when I found out there was wrestling in Japan, that was my main focus. I always wanted to wrestle in Japan. And then you would always see in the wrestling magazines they would have Japanese matches, so that's where I wanted to go. And I think I've exceeded that by going 43 times there and back.
Now, was you when you were in Japan? You said your wife was in Japan. Was that mommy, right?
Yes.
Okay, and she actually, you met her there?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, you happen to move to West Virginia, where I'm actually based out of Huntington. Now we're skipping forward ahead here. Now, when you moved to Charleston, am I correct?
Yes. Woody Numbers' grandma owned rental houses, and he kept telling me he wanted to do a federation in Charleston, West Virginia. So I asked him how many places was running, and he told me 7 places. And I said, well, we're already fucked, because if there's 7 places running, we're not going to be able to make it. Our company won't be able to make it. So he talked me into coming down, and we went to Arpin's show. We went to a Richie Aceveda show, and an XMCW show. 3 shows.
Was that run by Alan Lynch at the time?
Alan Lynch, yes. And after going to those 3 shows, I told Wood, I said, you know what, this might work. We might be able to make it. And he's like, well, what changed your mind? I said, because all we have to do is run a good show. Because XMCW was full of kids. I'm talking about 16, 15 years old. And I'm not hating on that, but that's what that company was. It was Alan and a bunch of his friends. Arpin, did you ever go to Arpin's show? Arpin would have like Zach Vincent versus Omega, and then a bunch of motherfuckers that didn't even deserve to be in the wrestling ring. And then Richie Aceveda, he was cool, but I mean, there was just You know, all I knew was, okay.
Richie Aveda, can you explain? Was that his work name?
No, Cuban Assassin.
Oh, Cuban Assassin. Yeah. So you're talking about the one that, okay, I know who you don't, okay, I know who he is now.
Yeah. So, and I'm not running these guys down. I mean, whatever they wanted to do. But once I watched their show, this is our first show for IWA East Coast. So I had ties in Japan, so I brought Ryuji Ito to America, and that's who I wrestled. I wrestled Ito. King.
Thumbtack. Jack.
Okay, but why do we gotta have this piece of shit on?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. In case you don't know who, I mean, he's talking about the, I won't mention his name, but if Pondo wants to mention his name, it's him.
And then we had Mickey Knuckles versus Allison Danger. We had that piece of shit right there versus Daisuke Sakimoto. We had El Drunko versus Zach Gowen. But our main event, we had, and we had Chris Hero versus, Cesaro, but he was that other shit, that Casanova, whatever he was.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
And then we had our main event, Abdullah the Butcher versus
Necro.
Butcher.
Yes.
So while we're in this meeting about what matches to put together, I'm like, come on, guys. I've got a lot of contacts. Tell me who we should book to make our show stand out from all the rest of the shows. So they're going over all these names, and about that time, it was Woody Numbers who said, well, I would say Abdul the Butcher, but he no-showed 3 times in West Virginia. I said, there's our ticket right there. Abdul is my boy. Like, me and him are fucking close. And was people upset when he no-showed? And Woody's like, oh yeah, people were fucking pissed about it. And I'm like, all right, we'll bring in Abdul the Butcher. We put Abdul the Butcher versus Necro Butcher, called it Battle of the Butchers, and a lot of people, especially XMCW people, I'll tell you what they did here in a minute. XMCW people was telling everybody, Abdullah won't show, Abdullah won't be here. Well, Abdullah was there. And that helped escalate IWA East Coast already. So XMCW guys, the churches in the area called me and Woody Numbers to come to the Nitro Center. 3 different churches. And 3 different churches showed us a flyer that had every bloody picture of me, every bloody picture of Necro, and every bloody picture of Abdul the Butcher. They didn't know who Ito was yet, so they didn't know that he was bloody all the time. All our information, but a whole flyer of bloody pictures of me, Necro, and Abdul the Butcher. And I'm like, well, where did you get these flyers at? Where did they come from? And they said, the Lynch brothers, they gave them to us. So what they was trying to do was, they was trying to tear us down. So they did a news, the news came out, and they did a story about this show that was coming. Free advertisement. We had 250 people our first show because people wanted to see what this bloody stuff was about. So they actually helped us. They was trying to hurt us, but they helped us.
Yeah, I actually was at that first show. So I did. So we got them in. I mean, because we ran in Huntington area, and we heard about on the internet at the time, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I was wrong, but MySpace was real popular back then.
Yeah.
And
they was running us down on MySpace.
Yes.
But that made you want to come, right?
That, and I wanted to see what the new company was all about, man. And I mean, I was very impressed myself, actually, the first time, as you know. So, I mean, and such good talent there. I mean,
and that's the thing, that spiraled IWA East Coast. So that first show, we made money. So the second show, who did we have for the second show? I think Vader.
You had Vader and stuff.
No, Vader was later on. because we moved to the Dunbar
Armory.
National Guard Armory. So the second show, I think, was New Jack. It was New Jack versus Ian Rotten. Never done before. Then the next show was El Drunko versus Sandman. And then...
Who was the original El
Lee
Drunko?
versus Raven was the third one.
Can you tell us that?
What?
El Drunko. Who was the original?
Nate Webb.
Nate Webb. Okay. So it wasn't Smokey C.
Not the original. Smokey C for 304 started doing a character called El Cuervo, which was El Drunko, but El Cuervo. And then wanted to come work for us. We was like, steal our shit. We don't want you around. But that was a long time ago. But
yeah,
Nate Webb was
Nate Webb. Okay. You had such good talent there. I mean, IW East Coast. I mean, everybody was asking, always my thoughts on it and stuff like that. And because, as you said, it was a lot of people running in West Virginia, and you had it when you came here. You did something different because I mean, and I agree with you because I was one of them promoters always used the same people, and you and I learned that you can't do that. I mean, you have to go outside the box and bring faces in that no one else is using. But you had such good talent at Roderick Strong. Yeah. I remember going there.
Here's the thing. I was friends with all these guys. I've known all these guys for so many years. So, I knew the talented motherfuckers to bring in to help this shit along. Not just the star, but we had a star each IWA East Coast show had one star. Vader, Abdullah, trying to think of them all. Badass Billy Gunn, when he got off of WWE, he got off WWE and boom. Gold Dust. Just whoever. Dick Togo. We got Dick Togo, which was unheard of. When we booked Dick Togo, companies from everywhere was like, hey, can you bring him here too? And we was like, no. Why would we? For Dick Togo, we had people drive in from Philadelphia. We had them drive in for Florida because nobody in America had ever had Dick Togo at that time. I'm trying to think of all the Steve Carino, we always had
Sammy Callahan and all them guys.
Sammy Callahan versus Kevin Sullivan at that. We always had one one name with a whole bunch of talented workers, because that one name would bring the people they wanted to see that one name, but then they would see the rest of our show and be like, holy shit, this show's fucking great. And that's how we did it. That's how you would go to them shows. We would draw 300 to 350 to 400 people on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, yes, because I remember them. Going there, and I told people, they even asked over and over, everybody was asked, what is your thoughts on, IW East Coast back then? And why do you support them? Why you go there? And I was like, why wouldn't I support them? There's some really good talent there. You actually used my ring a couple times. It was such good talent there. At the IW East Coast, because you all was a different atmosphere and what we was representing in the state of West Virginia at the time, and you all did the right move. And I always gave all props to that. For that, myself and Chris Angel and Randy that was here with us right now. I told people over and over and over that you all was the shit back then. It was the truth. As a promoter, I'm telling the truth. For that. Somebody said that there was 3 or 4 El Drunkas.
Nate Webb was the first one. A guy named Joker from Chikara, and then another guy. think of this dude's name. I'm terrible at it. But yeah, there was 3, and then Smokey. But Nate Webb, Jigsaw, and there was Nate Webb, and then there was a Jigsaw out of Chikara, and then there was damn it, what was this other kid's name? I can't remember. And then there was a Smoky City.
Yeah. So go back to out of the East Coast like that. So it kicked off good going that up, man. Did y'all did y'all ever settle the hatred through that when y'all settled in? Because after the first year or two, the
Hatred with who?
like the drama with all that area up that way.
No, it caused way more drama because anybody, and I'm not bragging because you even said it yourself. Anybody that's up here, the people down here want to tear it down.
Absolutely.
They want to be up here. But there was, I mean, can I go over names? There was 304. There was Arpin. The only other guy that was close to us was Gary Dameron, who would bring in Rock and Roll Express. He would bring in Midnight Express. Jim Cornell, he brought in. I wrestled Heidenreich for him. But he was
Thorn was a Thorn he used.
Oh yeah, Malachi. He was Malachi at the time though. But he was. We were hour 20 whatever apart. Plus his show was on one of them whiny ass roads that nobody liked to be on. But in his area, he was drawing good numbers. In Charleston, West Virginia, we were drawing great numbers. And I'm trying to think. And then me and Gary Dameron got along. So me and Jugs was a tag team. He put me versus the Honky Tonk Man, Jerry the King Lawler, Kevin Sullivan, the Nasty Boys. So he was doing the same thing of bringing in a name that would draw the people in, and then he would have the best local talent there is. I didn't even want to mess with the local talent, but Gary did. Gary would have Omega and Zach Vincent have a match. I was always the harder match, the more weapon style match. But you agree with that too? Like at that time, Gary Dameron was doing good numbers. I'm not saying not everybody was doing good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's was in the 253 400s. Ours was in the 253 400s. And I really don't remember any other company at that time doing over 100, 150.
Yeah, because at that time we was averaging around 100, 150, a little over 100. And of course you have had, like you was saying, I mean, you had so many people using the same talent in the area. And, and really, that, then you had, like y'all was going on there. I mean, we had 3 or 4 promotions and Huntington was running. And so it hurts it at that time and stuff. But, what do you think about the wrestling business nowadays? I mean, and from 10 years back from now.
I'm pretty sure this happened 10 years ago, but if you remember, Vince bought everything.
Mm-hmm.
He bought ECW, he bought WCW, he bought a bunch of territory, not territory, but smaller companies to make developmentals out of. And I mean, he was the man. There was no touching Vince McMahon because he owned it all. But now Cody Rhodes and the Khan dude, Tony Khan, and them guys, now they gave him a run for his money. But he got so used to being and I don't know it all. I really don't know it all. But the way I see it, Vince McMahon got used to, okay, there's nothing else, so I can put on what show that I want and people's going to come see it. AEW said, there's a different way. We can put all these high flying, cool matches together, and people will come see it, and it worked. In my opinion, that I mean, on all the ratings, fucking AEW is beating WWE. And I hear people all the time say, I can't even watch WWE's product anymore. But I haven't heard anybody say, oh, I don't like that AEW. And one thing that AEW did that I really appreciate is they based one of their pay-per-views around a death match. So, of course, the finish of it was Kenny Omega versus Moxley and Exploding Barbed Wire. Last Exploding Barbed Wire, maybe one of the best fireworks shows I ever saw. But leading up to that fireworks show, it was a good death match. But the buy rate, and Chris Jericho said this on Talk is Jericho, the buy rate for that pay-per-view for AEW was higher than all the rest of the buy rates. And then maybe 2 or 3, maybe even a month later, they let Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker go out there and tear it the fuck up in a death match. And yeah, I'm thinking AEW is on the right track. Well, from what I understand now, Vince is trying to sell WWE to CBS or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but you never would have heard of that 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Do you think that if they would if someone would have picked up and market hardcore wrestling and put it on a television live, I mean, do you think they would win over on TV?
Well, Paul did.
I'm talking about the death match.
That's a difficult one to say because, well, maybe back then, but now America is so sissified with all this cancel culture and all this shit, and you know, I don't think a deathmatch company now would make it on TV. I would love to say yes, but there's too many sensitive people now that just hate on things for hating. So, I don't know. That's hard to say, but I would say that if there was an HBO or a Showtime that picked up a monthly deathmatch wrestling show, I bet that would have made it. Because it seems to me like HBO or Showtime, you have a choice if you want to watch it. But if you think about it, you have a choice if you want to watch WWE or AEW. But that choice doesn't matter because they just want to get on the internet and fucking hate on things. So
you mentioned the culture. I mean, that was going on. I mean, it really did get out of hand there and stuff. I remember right before, and you know, God rest his soul and stuff. What a great guy he was. I mean, very good friend of mine and yours, and a lot of people all over the wrestling universe is Tracy Smothers.
yeah,
And we actually had when everything the pandemic was shut down and stuff, and we was doing interviews and, you know, with Jimmy Valiant and a few others. We actually had Tracy coming at my house and was going to do one. And we actually had the poster done and everything, but he was getting life threats then due to his gimmick and stuff, and he said he didn't want to feel so, but he actually didn't want to bring it on me. And of course, I told him I didn't care about that, but due to safety and his illness, you know, it was the right move anyway.
That whole speaking out movement and cancel culture and all that shit. When the speaking out movement came out, I showed up on the list, and I'm writing the guy who wrote the list, and I said, why on earth am I on this list? And he told me, he wrote me back and said, I can't tell you who put you on this list because they were hurt back then, and I don't want them to be hurt now. So I could have said, I don't know, I could have said that Brooklyn Brawler touched my penis. You know, that's not true. But I could have said that, and he would have made it on this list. So finally, I badgered this guy so much, and then finally somebody who worked for this guy said, well, Pondo's on this list because he started dating Sarah Logan when she was 16 years old. I didn't even know her when she was 16 years old. When the end of 17 years old, she had a boyfriend. Not until she was 18 years old did I even know that she liked me. So I challenged everybody. I said, go to her Twitter, her Instagram, her Facebook, her YouTube channel, and ask Crazy Mary Dobson, Sarah Logan, how old she was when we started dating. Because she would never talk to me, and still has not talked to me to this day. But she wrote a few people and said, no, I was 18. I don't even know why this is an issue. And next thing I know, my name got swiped off that list. But here's the thing. Like I was just saying, I could have said anybody did anything to me, and they would have made it on that list. It's a bullshit list. Some of them are serious, some of them are true. But if you remember, the list had over 100 people on it. Surely out of those 100, there was another case like me who hadn't done nothing but got put on that list.
Do you actually think some of the stuff was true that from a lot of the guys that you knew that was on the list?
One of my good friends, I'm not even going to say his name, but he made it on the list. And yes, he had some issues, and yes, he did some of the things that people would say that he did. But the deal with that is, nobody said it until that whole speaking movement came out. So, and then next thing you know, he was just a big piece of shit. But everybody knew who he was before, but everybody loved him. But because of the speaking out movement, then everybody hated him. And then one name I will say, Joey Ryan. Everybody hates on Joey Ryan. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe he was such a dirty-minded person back then. Oh, the guy that got famous for grabbing people's dick, you didn't know that he was a dirty-minded person? You know, I don't know. Maybe I see things differently, but I just know that I hadn't done nothing and I made it on that list. So I'm sure there's other people that hasn't done nothing that's made it on that list.
Yeah. See, Joey Ryan's, a lot of people, I mean, I never met Joey Ryan before. I mean, I don't even recall being around a show with him, but, as a promoter, I mean, I do disagree on the grabbing the testicles. So look at him.
Okay, but the guy had a sponsorship with Pornhub, making bank off of Pornhub.
Mm-hmm.
But you got people saying, and people knew that. I mean, it was common knowledge. It was all over the internet that he got the sponsorship from Pornhub. After the speaking out came, so many people was like, I can't believe Joey Ryan was like that. Did you forget about the contract with Pornhub?
Mm-hmm.
You think there's a porn star that doesn't have a dirty mind?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Should I say, I mean, I should rephrase that. I mean, I don't know. That's, he he got bookings, dozens of bookings off of, everybody knew his situation and what he did. I should rephrase that as a promoter and stuff like that and just say, back to the situation that we talked before. It's a marketing in everything in the business. I mean, it's marketing in, deathmatch, hardcore, I mean, different style of wrestling.
High flying.
Yeah.
Strong style, technical wrestling, comedy wrestling, mid
Yes.
wrestling. There's many markets in wrestling.
Yeah, so I should rephrase that in that same, but I mean, it depends what kind of show you're trying to draw attention to, if you should book that. One question here I was going to ask you. You mentioned earlier in this interview that you mentioned his dad and stuff like that, and we're going to put back here. I mean, if we can go on the screen here, and it's you right here, and rest in peace, his soul, J.C. Bailey. And you mentioned that you worked for his dad. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, I'm the one that gave his dad the Bad to the Bone wrestling name. And JC was a good friend of mine, man. He was.
Do you recall this match?
Oh, of course.
Was this in IWA East Coast?
No, this is that piece of shit's company.
Okay, gotcha.
But this match right here gets so much hate from people, and I don't care if they hate on me. But are you doing that?
No, it's just.
I don't care if they hate on me, but JC's not here to defend himself, you know. I mean, why would they want to hate on JC?
You said they're showing hate. Why did they do that? What was he saying?
Saying that this match was stupid. Look, there's little Mickey Knuckles in a referee shirt right there. But just saying, you know, that this match shouldn't have happened. This match was stupid to do. You know, just you know how it is. You know how people just.
How you was saying, I mean, it's stupid to do. I mean, that goes back to, I mean, you know, I'm going to tell you as a promoter, marketing. I mean, that goes back to marketing. I mean, that's the spider web death match. Am I correct? Yes. And I mean, it draws in different places. I mean, if you go. Now, that's one of the big matches that over in Japan, am I correct, in the death matches?
Yeah.
The spider web.
Death match, that came from, the idea of that came from a match from Mr. Danger Masanaga. Him and Yamakawa did one. But they only had one tier. It was just one bridge. And then that style of match. But I told whoever ran the show that I wanted it to be 3 tiers. That way we could take 3 different bumps off of it. And that's what we came up with. Okay. 18 foot high.
18 foot high. Now, you said USWA. Was that back in the 90s or 89 or about a year after you got in the business?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was before I went to. Yeah, it was in the 90s. But it was CWA to begin with, and then became USWA after that.
Did that, was that before, I can't remember, or after the Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman?
That was
way before. After. Yeah. How was Jerry when you were around him?
He didn't like me. I had a plastic elbow pad and a plastic knee pad, so he really didn't like me all that much. But later on in life, when we wrestled each other, I went in the locker room to see how I did, and he gave me a hug and said I learned a lot over the years and shit like that. So I always try to kill him with kindness, you know.
Yeah, because you mentioned once before that Jim Cornette mentioned to you that you was at a match one time and you wrestled in a singles or a tag match, and he came back and
so Jim Cornette, because I'll go ahead and say his name. So there was a time where Kentucky had a Pondo rotten law, and Jim Cornette hated this because it knocked out all the armories and all the Kentucky states. So because I was associated with that guy, Jim Cornette hated me, and I heard it almost every week. Jim Cornette said this, Jim Cornette said that. I didn't even know the guy then, right? So the truck stop match, Jim Cornette was there, and we talked, and I could tell that he really didn't want to talk to me. And then when I worked for Gary Damron the first time, when I worked Titan Right, Dennis Condrey was the locker room booker for that, and when Dennis would tell me something, Jim would be right there, and they would both be telling me things. So I remember all that, but then Gary Dameron booked me and Jake Manning versus Viper and Dennis Condrey, managed by Jim Cornette. So already in my mind, I'm like, I know Jim Cornette's going to shit all over me. He's going to hate me and all this. So when we started going over the match, I made sure all my wrestling moves that I did, all my chain wrestling and all that was with Dennis Condrey. And I more or less let Jake and Viper do their thing, and then I would get in there with Dennis Condrey, you know, and I just wrestled the guy. I mean, I was a wrestler before I became a deathmatch worker. So the match got done. People all loved it. Everybody was cheering. I went to the back, and I'm taking off my boots, and I look up, and I lock eyes with Jim Cornette. And he's coming across the room. I'm like, all right, here he goes. I know he's getting ready to hate on me. And he came over to me, and he extended his hand out. He said, man, Pondo, I didn't even know you could wrestle. And he shook my hand and turned around and walked the other way. To Jim Cornette, that's a hell of a fucking a compliment, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
And I took it. And then after that, I'd seen him at a horror convention, and a friend of mine went over to his house and said that he was hanging out with me, and Jim Cornette signed one of his books to my favorite mud show wrestler, Madman Pondo, Jim Cornette. So I guess we're cool now.
Before we wrap this up and stuff, let's talk about your new adventure. Do you promote shows yourself now called Girl Fight Wrestling?
Yeah, Girl Fight Wrestling.
How's that going over and stuff?
Some good, some bad. The thing about Girl Fight is, unless I do them in the arena in Jeffersonville, Indiana, they're sold shows, so I don't lose money on them. But in Jeffersonville, I live right there. Like the arena, I walk out my porch, and the door for the arena is right there. So I don't even pay myself for those Girl Fight shows at the arena. But we're doing pretty good numbers with it, and the thing about Girl Fight is, it's not just a tits and ass show. My girls actually wrestle. So any single female match that you saw that had good wrestling, I put all those together, just like my IWA East Coast idea. I put all these girls that can wrestle together, and some of them that I'm not sure about. I have a Mickey Knuckles and a Billy Starks that can lead people along, and it's been pretty successful so far, so I'm pretty happy with Girl Fight Wrestling.
Yeah, how long has it been going on?
First show was in 2013, but we didn't have another one until 2015. The one in 2013 had Crazy Mary Dobson versus Jazz as the main event, and we drew 70 people, so we didn't know about it. But then when I started living next to the arena, I was like, oh, well, I live here now, and had access to it. So then we started it again, and our numbers went up. And so 2013 was the first one, but steady 2015 to today.
Yeah. And I remember you went to Texas and everything with these.
Yeah, we've been to 15 different states. We've been to Indiana. I know I'm going to mess this up. Indiana, Michigan, West Virginia, Illinois, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas, I said Michigan, Missouri. I don't know, 15. If you go to the Girl Fight Facebook page and go to the flyers, all the flyers for all the shows are on there, and you'll see 15 different states that we did shows in.
When you broke into business, was you ever a Terry Gordy fan?
Loved the Freebirds. I was a big Freebird fan. and most of that was Michael Hayes's promos and Terry Gordy's badassery. Not so much Buddy Roberts all that much. I never understood why he was a part of them. A company called Windy City Wrestling had Bam Bam Bigelow versus Bam Bam Terry Gordy for the Bam Bam name. I was front row for that. Yeah, I was a big Freebird fan. And then for some reason, World Class Championship Wrestling started running in Chicago, and I was really confused about that. But they would bring in Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts and the Samoan SWAT team and Kerry Von Erich, shit like that. And I never understood why World Class Championship Wrestling that was based out of Texas would be in Chicago. But then, now I'm friends with Buddy Roberts' son, and he told me how Buddy Roberts moved to Chicago, and that's why those shows were ran in Chicago.
And who's his son now?
Buddy Roberts. That's his name, Buddy Roberts.
Is he a wrestler? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we skip along to Terry's daughter, Miranda. Have you had any interest in her yet?
Yes, she worked the Girl Fight Texas show.
Girl Fight. How'd that go?
It was good. She worked her boyfriend, I think, and they did a all-out brawl all over the place.
Yeah. So, what is your where the fans can reach out to you? Do you have a Madman Pondo page or anything?
No, I mean, my Facebook is Kevin Canady, Canady. If you want to try to add me, that's fine, but a lot of times I don't, because I don't want to wind up in Facebook jail, and you never know who's going to get offended by a bloody picture, so I'm really particular about that. There's a book about me. John Cosper wrote a book, and I told him the stories. He wrote it down. There's pictures in there. There's a lot of stories. Embarrassing and non-embarrassing, wrestling, childhood. There's all types of stories. 248 pages. And you can pick that up at Amazon.com, or you can go to EatSleepWrestle.com and talk to John Cosper about an autograph copy. And just any wrestling show that you see that I'm at, I'm a good dude, man. Like, I'm not gonna not want to talk to you. So come out to the shows that I'm at and just start talking to me. I'll do my best to talk to you.
Absolutely, and you're back wrestling again. I mean, a lot of people, knew your injury that currently happened at the WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this too, and it was your first time in the hospital. Am I correct?
Very first time in 31. Well, very first time for Kevin Canady in 51 years. Very first time for Madman Pondo in 31 years to spend the night in the hospital for an injury. Yeah.
Okay, and so you're back 100% back on the road again, wrestling.
I would say so. I just worked
Wrestling.
for you, and I worked for I don't even remember what the call letters of this is, and then I worked for Insane Clown Posse on Wednesday, and then I worked Slack for Anafied Underground on Thursday, and then I fly to North Dakota and wrestle for Time Bomb Wrestling on Saturday, and things are picking up again. Like, I was afraid people would forget about me, but it seems like people remember me even more now. So, yeah, I've got a lot of bookings coming up.
Absolutely. Well, Pondo, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us with this late night interview. And of course, it will be on our.
We don't sleep anyway.
Oh, yeah, it will be on our YouTube TV station as well. That Randy Egerton will put it on. But thanks again, once again, and have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Madman Pondo. If you ever want to come and see him and at any of the shows, and a true legend of hardcore deathmatch wrestling. Yes, absolutely. No, there. Thanks once again. Thanks, guys. Bye.